Under anesthesia, my fiancé whispered. I slept with his best friend. Twice. Her mom was in the room. I was standing 2 feet away. I never thought the quiet beeping of hospital machines would be the soundtrack to my life unraveling. It was supposed to be a routine procedure for Rachel, my fiancée. Nothing life-threatening, just a minor surgery she'd been putting off. I stood by her bed, her mother Linda sitting stiffly in the chair across from me, scrolling her phone like she was trying to disappear into it. The anesthesiologist adjusted the nurse checked vitals, everything normal. Then Rachel, still half under, mumbled words that froze the air. I slept with his best friend twice. The words came out slurred, but unmistakable. My chest tightened like someone had dropped a cinder block inside me. I was 2 feet away. Linda's head shot up. Her eyes darted to me, then back to Rachel. The nurse, wide-eyed, tried to look busy with the monitor. The anesthesiologist cleared his throat like he hadn't heard a thing, but everyone had. Everyone. I just stared at Rachel, her lips slack, her face peaceful, no idea of the bomb she'd just dropped. 2 feet away from me, right in front of her own mother. My first instinct was denial. Sedation made people say nonsense, didn't it? But it hadn't sounded random. The phrasing was too precise, too damning. I slept with his best friend twice. The words echoed in my skull. I turned to the anesthesiologist, voice low but sharp. Does that happen? Do people say things they don't mean when they're sedated? He hesitated, adjusting his glasses. Patients can talk under anesthesia, yes. Sometimes it's nonsense. Sometimes it can be truthful. The brain loses its filter. That was the wrong answer. My pulse spiked, heat flooding my face. I looked at Linda. She looked pale, but not shocked enough. Her reaction wasn't of someone blindsided. It was the reaction of someone caught. Her phone slipped in her hand, and she didn't pick it up right away. You knew. I whispered, not caring if the nurse heard. Linda shifted, her lips pressed tight. Peter, this isn't the time. I stepped closer, towering over her chair. Not the time. Your daughter just confessed to sleeping with Kyle. Twice. And you. I stopped myself, realizing I was inches from shouting in a sterile recovery room. The nurse pretended to check a chart, but her ears were red. Linda's eyes darted to Rachel, who was still muttering fragments, nothing coherent. Then back to me. Linda leaned in, her voice like a hiss. Keep your voice down. She's not herself. Not herself. I snapped, still keeping it just under a yell. That was specific. Twice. With my best friend. Her jaw clenched. She looked like she wanted to vanish. You can't take anesthesia talk as gospel. Then why do you look guilty? I shot back. Why do you look like you already knew? Linda flinched, her hands tightening on her purse strap. Because I warned her this would happen, she muttered. I blinked. What? Her eyes widened, realizing she'd said too much. She tried to backpedal, shaking her head. I mean, she talks in her sleep sometimes. I didn't think it was serious. But I knew. That slip was all I needed. She knew. She'd known for a while, and she'd said nothing. Maybe even helped cover it. I stood there, the room suddenly stifling. The beeping of Rachel's heart monitor sounded like a metronome ticking down to an explosion. My fiancée was lying there, spilling secrets under sedation, while her mother tried to run interference. My so-called best friend, Kyle, was somewhere out there, oblivious to the fact his name had just been dragged into the light. I stepped back, breathing hard. I wanted to wake Rachel right then, shake her, demand the truth. But looking at her, her hand limp under the hospital blanket, her face pale, I knew it wouldn't give me answers. Not yet. She wouldn't remember this moment. But I would. Burned into my brain. The nurse glanced at me, cautious. Sir, maybe you should step outside. Patients can say things, it's best not to overthink. I gave a bitter laugh. Not overthink. My fiancée just confessed to screwing my best friend in her sleep. Twice. How exactly do I not overthink that? The nurse looked away, cheeks flushing. She couldn't answer. The anesthesiologist slipped out without a word, clearly not wanting to get dragged in. Linda stood, finally finding her composure. She lowered her voice, but her words were sharp. Peter, if you care about Rachel, you'll keep this to yourself. It was nonsense. Do not humiliate her. Humiliate her. That word. Not clear her name. Not find the truth. Just don't humiliate her. That told me everything. Linda wasn't interested in truth. She was interested in preserving Rachel's image, in keeping me docile. I leaned in, close enough that only she could hear. If she really slept with Kyle, everyone will know. I'll make sure of it. Her eyes went cold. For a second, I saw the mask drop. She wasn't the polite, overbearing mother-in-law to be. She was someone who would bury truth under concrete if it protected her daughter's reputation. Be careful, she whispered. Some things, once exposed, can't be undone. I didn't answer. I turned, grabbed my jacket off the chair, and walked out of that room before I did something stupid. My chest felt like it was splitting open. I walked the sterile halls, each step heavier. People passed by, laughing nurses, a janitor pushing a mop, visitors with balloons and flowers. Normal life carried on, while mine tilted off its axis. In the parking lot, the evening air hit me like a slap. I sat in my car, gripping the wheel until my knuckles went white. The pieces of the puzzle started rearranging in my head. Times Rachel had been at her mom's late. Nights Kyle had bailed on our plans, saying he was busy. A weekend Rachel went to see a cousin, while Kyle was mysteriously out of town too. Little things I'd brushed off. Now, under the fluorescent hospital light, they looked like neon signs. I unlocked my phone, scrolled through old texts. There it was, a message from Kyle, 3 months ago, canceling a guy's night last minute. Same night Rachel had come home late, claiming her mother had kept her for dinner. My gut twisted. Linda. She had been the alibi. The anger simmered hotter. Not just at Rachel, not just at Kyle, but at Linda, sitting there in that recovery room, trying to silence me, protect her daughter's lie at the expense of my sanity. She hadn't looked shocked. She'd looked cornered. I started the car, but didn't drive. My mind was already spinning scenarios. Confront Rachel? Too soon. Confront Kyle? He'd deny it, and Rachel would back him up. No, I needed proof. I needed something undeniable. Because if I went in with half-baked accusations, they'd gaslight me, turn it around, make me the paranoid fiancé. So I sat there, headlights washing over the concrete wall, and decided. I wasn't going to storm and swinging. I was going to take my time, collect every piece, make it airtight. If Rachel had really slept with Kyle, if Linda had covered it, then I was going to tear the entire facade down brick by brick. And when I was done, they wouldn't just lose me. They'd lose everything. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I shut my eyes, I heard Rachel's voice under anesthesia, slurred but sharp. I slept with his best friend twice. It didn't matter that she didn't know what she was saying. The words cut through any illusion I had left. By morning, I'd already decided what I had to do. This wasn't about asking for an explanation. Explanations were useless without proof. People lie when confronted. But evidence, that couldn't be twisted. Rachel came home 2 days later, moving slowly from the surgery. I played the attentive fiancé, got her soup, fluffed her pillows, pretended everything was normal. She smiled at me with that soft, trusting look, and I wanted to believe it. But every word she said felt like another layer of paint overwrought. I caught myself studying her face when she wasn't looking, wondering how many lies she'd told me in the past year. When she dozed off, I took her phone. Not once had I gone through it before. I wasn't the paranoid type. But now I scrolled. Texts, socials, photos. Nothing obvious, nothing incriminating. Too clean. That alone was suspicious. Rachel wasn't organized. If she'd really risked our relationship, there should have been traces. Unless someone had already wiped them. But I noticed small things. Messages from Kyle months ago about catching up, that cut off abruptly. A Venmo notification buried in her email, labeled for gas. But the amount was way higher than what gas cost. The date lined up with one of her supposed girls' nights. I screenshotted everything, sent it to myself, deleted the history. Then I put the phone back exactly where I found it. The next day, I arranged to meet Kyle for a beer. We hadn't hung out much recently, which in hindsight was another red flag. He greeted me with that fake grin of his, slapped me on the back like nothing was wrong. I forced myself to match his energy, ordered us both drinks, and asked about work. He rambled about some new project, eyes darting everywhere but mine. So I tested him. I said, "Man, Rachel's been acting weird lately. Staying out late. Think she's hiding something." He almost choked on his beer. His eyes widened just for a second before he plastered on a laugh. "Come on, man, you're just nervous about the wedding. Cold feet. Happens to everyone." The deflection was too fast, too rehearsed. My gut tightened. I pushed a little more. "Yeah, maybe. But sometimes I think she's lying about where she goes. You ever notice that?" Kyle's jaw clenched. He leaned back, shrugged. "Nah, dude. She's loyal. Don't overthink it." His tone was off. Defensive. His hand gripped the glass like it might crack. That's when I knew. He wasn't just covering for Rachel. He was covering for himself. I played it cool, changed the subject, but inside I was boiling. The confirmation wasn't in his words, but in the way his body betrayed him. When I got home, Rachel was in the kitchen, humming while stirring pasta. She looked so normal, so domestic, that for a moment I almost convinced myself I was crazy. But then my phone buzzed, a reminder of the screenshots I'd saved. The Venmo. The odd messages. Kyle's reaction. No, I wasn't crazy. A few nights later, Linda called. Her voice was sharp, urgent. "Peter, I want to remind you. What Rachel said in the hospital doesn't mean anything. You'll ruin everything if you fixate on it. Please, just focus on the wedding." Her tone wasn't pleading. It was commanding, like she was issuing an order. That was all the proof I needed that she was in on the lie. No mother pushes that hard unless she's desperate to bury something. I didn't argue. I let her talk, nodded into the phone. But after we hung up, I wrote everything down. Dates, times, Linda's calls, Kyle's slip, Rachel's alibis. I wasn't just hunting for truth anymore. I was building a case. The breakthrough came from something small. One evening, Rachel said she was going to bed early. I flipped on the TV after she left, scrolling through apps, when I noticed something. The Netflix account. Kyle had his own profile. We'd shared accounts back when we were roommates years ago. I clicked it out of habit. There it was. A recently watched movie, late-night timestamp, the same night Rachel had supposedly been homesick. I checked a few more. The patterns lined up with her supposed absences. They'd been streaming together, probably using his account. Careless. That was the first real piece of evidence. Not just suspicion. A timeline. I needed more. So I set a trap. I told Rachel I had to leave town for 2 nights for a work trip. I packed a bag, kissed her on the cheek, and drove off like I was heading to the airport. Instead, I parked my car in a friend's driveway across town, grabbed a motel room, and waited. The first night, nothing. Rachel texted me photos of takeout containers and a blanket on the couch, acting perfectly innocent. But on the second night, her story cracked. She said she was at her mom's, helping with groceries. But when I drove past Linda's house, her car wasn't there. Linda's porch light was off. I followed the trail. Half an hour later, I spotted Rachel's car parked 2 blocks from Kyle's apartment. She thought she was clever, not pulling right up front. But I knew her car. I knew the dent on the back bumper. I parked down the street, waited. An hour passed. Then the building door opened. Rachel slipped out, hood up, glancing around like a thief. Kyle stepped out a moment later, laughing at something she'd said. He kissed her quickly before she hurried to her car. It wasn't just suspicion anymore. It was truth. The anesthesia hadn't lied. The words she'd blurted out weren't random. She had slept with Kyle. And by the looks of it, it wasn't just twice. I gripped the wheel so tight I thought it would snap. My first instinct was to get out, scream, drag Kyle into the street, and beat him bloody. But that would give them control. They'd spin it, call me violent, unstable. No, I couldn't give them that. Instead, I drove back to the motel, my heart hammering. I wrote everything down again, every detail, every timestamp. The confession, Linda's slip, Kyle's reaction, the Netflix account, the motel sighting. This wasn't about catching them anymore. This was about making sure when the truth came out, no one could deny it. The next morning, I played it calm. I texted Rachel good morning, asked if she'd slept well. She said yes, smiled through her words like nothing was wrong. I made breakfast when I got home, kissed her on the forehead, acted like the perfect fiancé. Inside, though, I was already planning the next step. If Rachel and Kyle thought they could play me for a fool, they had no idea who they were dealing with. The morning after I watched Rachel slip out of Kyle's apartment, the world felt different. Every smile, every touch from her was hollow. She kissed me in the kitchen, thanked me for breakfast, and all I could see was her hood pulled low, her lips brushing against Kyle's outside his building. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was the calm way she looked at me like nothing was wrong. Like I was the fool she could keep playing. I kept my mask on. For days, I stayed quiet, collected data. I pulled bank records. Found a withdrawal from our joint account on a weekend she swore she was with her cousin. I traced it to a boutique hotel just outside town. Checked my calendar. That was the same weekend Kyle had gone camping. The pieces locked together like teeth on a gear. But still, I didn't move. I wanted more than just my own word against theirs. That's when Maddie came into the picture. I hadn't thought about her much. Kyle had mentioned her casually a few months back, saying she was too clingy. We'd never really hung out as couples. He'd kept her at a distance from our circle, which made sense now. He couldn't risk overlap. But when I spotted her at the grocery store one evening, alone, she looked wrecked. Her eyes red, hands trembling as she bagged her things. I almost walked past. Then I stopped. Something in me snapped. I introduced myself, keeping my tone casual, like a friend of Kyle's being polite. She recognized my name immediately. Her face tightened. "You're Peter," she said flatly. "Rachel's fiancé." I nodded, waited. She didn't say more, just clenched her jaw. I leaned closer, lowered my voice. "Has Kyle been acting strange with you?" Her eyes flickered, searching my face. Suspicion, fear, curiosity. She hesitated, then blurted, "He disappears. Lies about where he is. And last week, I saw a charge from a restaurant he swore he never went to. He was there with someone." The air between us thickened. She wanted to say it but couldn't. I made it easy. "Rachel." Her face crumbled. Just like that, I knew she hadn't been told. She hadn't suspected the exact truth until now. Tears welled, but she blinked them back. "Tell me everything." We sat in my car in the parking lot, two betrayed people piecing together scraps. I told her about the anesthesia confession, the hospital, Linda's reaction, the motel stakeout. The receipts. She told me about the nights he vanished, the money he took from her for bills that never made sense, the excuses about working late. It lined up too perfectly. Kyle hadn't just betrayed me. He'd bled Maddie dry, emotionally and financially. We made a pact right there. No more being victims. We'd expose them together. The next step was riskier. Maddie still had access to Kyle's apartment. She knew his passcode, had a spare key he didn't know she still kept. She offered to go in, check his devices. My gut told me it was dangerous, but she was determined. 2 days later, she called me, breathless. "You were right," she said. "There are photos, messages. He kept it all." She sent me screenshots. Rachel and Kyle together on his couch, timestamps clear. Messages arranging meetups, Rachel's initials in the chat. Even one where she joked about Peter never suspecting a thing. The rage that hit me was volcanic. It took everything not to drive straight to Kyle's job and put him through a wall. But I didn't. I forced myself to breathe. Evidence was power. Rage was weakness. That night, Linda called again. She always called at the worst moments, like she could sense when my anger peaked. "Peter," she said smoothly, "I know you're still bothered. But Rachel needs you. Don't dig into things that don't matter. You'll only hurt her." The audacity made me laugh. A dry, bitter sound. "So you admit there are things to dig into?" Silence. Then, too quickly, "I didn't say that." I pressed harder. "You've covered for her before. You lied to me about dinners, errands. Don't bother denying it." Her voice dropped, sharp as glass. "Do not destroy my daughter's future over a mistake." Mistake. That word again. Like cheating twice with my best friend was the same as forgetting an anniversary. I snapped. "You knew. You've known for months. You let me walk into this wedding blind." Her mask cracked. She sighed, tired, annoyed. I warned her to stop, but she insisted it was nothing serious. Just foolishness. She swore she'd settle down once the wedding was over. I believed her. You should too. Her calmness chilled me more than rage ever could. She wasn't denying it anymore. She was rationalizing it. In her mind, my pain didn't matter. My dignity didn't matter. As long as Rachel made it to the altar, everything was fine. I hung up without another word. The walls were closing in. Rachel's lies. Kyle's betrayal. Linda's complicity. Maddie's heartbreak. I wasn't just fighting one enemy. It was all of them. But now, I had something they didn't know I had. Proof. Screenshots. Photos. Messages. And Maddie as an ally. We met again in secret, mapped out a plan. "We can't just confront them one by one," she said. "They'll twist it, gaslight, cover. We need everyone to see at once. No escape." She was right. If I exposed Rachel privately, Linda would spin it. If I went at Kyle alone, he'd deny everything. No, it had to be public. A setting they couldn't wriggle out of. The rehearsal dinner. Everyone important in one room. Family, friends, both sides watching. Perfect. We prepared carefully. Maddie compiled Kyle's messages. I organized Rachel's timelines, the receipts, the Venmo, the Netflix logs. We even had Linda on tape. I'd recorded our last call. Her saying she'd warned Rachel, calling it foolishness. That was the nail in the coffin. But even with all of this, I didn't sleep easy. Because I knew how slippery they were. Rachel with her practiced innocence. Kyle with his smirking charm. Linda with her manipulations. They wouldn't go down without a fight. One more piece fell into place the night before the dinner. I checked our wedding account online, routine habit. That's when I saw it. A transfer request, pending approval, for several $1,000s. Destination? An account with Kyle's name. My blood ran cold. Rachel was funneling money straight to him. I screenshotted it instantly. This wasn't just cheating anymore. This was theft. Betrayal at every level. I sat back, staring at the screen. The plan for the dinner wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about showing everyone the rot that had spread through this entire engagement. The lies, the manipulation, the money. The thought almost made me smile. For months they'd treated me like a fool, like someone too blind to see what was happening under his nose. But tomorrow night, I'd show them just how wrong they were. And when I did, they wouldn't just lose me. They'd lose each other. The night of the rehearsal dinner, I walked in calm. Too calm. My suit pressed, tie neat, every step measured. No one in the room suspected what was coming. They laughed, clinked glasses, rehearsed toasts. Rachel floated around in her white dress, glowing, pretending she was the perfect bride-to-be. Kyle sat at the bar, drink in hand, smirk plastered on his face. Linda was orchestrating everything like a general, making sure the evening looked flawless. They thought I was the fool. I let it play out for 20 minutes. Toasts, small talk, forced laughter. My hands didn't shake. I felt like a surgeon preparing for a cut. Maddie slipped in quietly halfway through, sat near the back. No one noticed her, not yet. When the chatter died down for the main toast, I stood. Rachel beamed at me, expecting something romantic, maybe a speech about our love. Instead, I pulled my phone from my pocket, connected it to the small speaker system. Before I say anything, I began, I think everyone deserves to hear a few things. Confusion rippled across the tables. Rachel tilted her head, smiling nervously. Linda's smile froze. I pressed play. Rachel's voice, slurred but clear, filled the room. I slept with his best friend twice. The room went silent. Chairs scraped. A fork clinked against a glass and stayed there. Rachel's face drained of color. That's not, she started, but I cut her off. Maybe you'll say anesthesia makes people talk nonsense. So let's listen to something else. I tapped again. Linda's voice came through, sharp, recorded from our call. I warned her to stop, but she insisted it was nothing serious. Just foolishness. She swore she'd settle down once the wedding was over. Gasps rippled. Heads turned. Rachel's father's face hardened, eyes snapping to Linda. Rachel stammered, reaching for me. Peter, please, don't. I pulled my phone back, opened the gallery, and mirrored the screen to the TV. Photos. Screenshots. Rachel in Kyle's apartment. Texts arranging meetings. Messages about me being clueless. And then the bank transfer request. Thousands of dollars from our wedding account to Kyle. Explain this, I said flatly, holding the phone up so everyone could see. Kyle stood, red-faced. This is out of context. Maddie's voice cut through the air, cold and sharp. No, it's not. Heads turned as she rose from her seat, stepping forward. She held up her own phone. I'm Maddie, Kyle's girlfriend. Or at least I was. Here are the rest of the messages. Him promising to pay me back with the money he was siphoning from Peter and Rachel's account. The room erupted. Shouts, gasps, disbelief. Rachel lunged toward me, tears streaming now. Please, Peter, let me explain. I stepped back, away from her grasp. Explain what? That you stole from me to fund your affair? That your mother lied to my face to protect you? That Kyle, my best friend, laughed about this behind my back. Her sobs filled the silence. Linda tried to regain control, standing tall, voice firm. Everyone calm down. This is a private matter. No. I snapped, louder than I'd ever spoken in that family's presence. This is public, because you made it public the moment you covered for her. The moment you decided my dignity was less important than your daughter's reputation. Rachel's father slammed his hand on the table. Is this true? He barked at Linda. She faltered. For the first time, she had no polished words. Her silence was answer enough. Kyle tried to slip out, but Maddie intercepted him, shoving her phone into his chest. You took my money, my time, my trust. You don't get to walk away like nothing happened. The chaos reached its peak. Rachel collapsed into a chair, sobbing, mascara streaking down her face. Linda stood frozen, exposed. Kyle sputtered excuses no one believed. And me? I felt nothing but clarity. I turned to the crowd. Family, friends, people who had supported us, invested in us. There will be no wedding, I said calmly. The venue is canceled. The accounts are frozen. The ring is hers to keep, as a reminder of what she destroyed. Gasps again. Rachel cried harder. Peter, please, don't do this. I ignored her. If anyone here doubts what I've shown, I have copies. Screenshots. Transfers. Recordings. I'll share them gladly. This is not slander. This is fact. Silence followed. Heavy, suffocating. The image of Rachel kissing Kyle on his couch still hung on the TV screen. I slipped my phone back into my pocket, adjusted my jacket, and walked out. No one stopped me. Not one. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Rachel tried calling me dozens of times over the next week. Voicemails filled with sobs, apologies, promises it meant nothing, that she'd make it right. I didn't answer a single one. Linda showed up at my apartment once, banging on the door, demanding I fix this mess before it ruined Rachel's life. I recorded her rant, then told her calmly through the door that if she didn't leave, I'd call the police. She left, seething. Rachel's father reached out privately. He apologized, not for Rachel, but for himself, for letting Linda control everything. He confessed he hadn't known about the affair, but the bank transfer had broken his trust completely. He cut Rachel off financially. Kyle lost everything in 1 week. Maddie left him, exposed him to his employer with proof of his financial deceit, and he was fired. Friends cut him out. He texted me once, begging for forgiveness, claiming Rachel had seduced him. I blocked him. Rachel moved back in with Linda, her reputation shredded. Everyone in her social circle knew the story, not because I spread it, but because the people at that dinner did. Word travels fast when betrayal is that ugly. As for me, I didn't feel victorious, just clean, like I'd finally scrubbed poison from my life. The wedding was gone, but so was the rot that had infected every corner of it. Sometimes I replay that moment in the hospital. Her voice, under anesthesia, whispering the truth she never meant to reveal. A slip of the tongue that burned her whole house down. And I think, Maybe that was the most honest thing she ever gave me.
Made any more money. And in fact, this generation, Gen Z, is the first generation where at their same age as their parents, they're making less money, not more. Problem is their university degrees are 3 to 4x more expensive. Oh, by the way, so is housing. Wait a second. Inflation is at a degree in which my dollar today is worth even substantially less than even 5 years ago. On top of that, yeah, we have all these jobs open. 7 million working age men supposedly are unemployed at this moment right now, even though the jobs report says that there's so many jobs. Are the jobs real? Well, largely not. They're private sector. They're not private sector. They're public sector. They're government jobs. And so young people are like, wait a second, I can't live. I can't eat. Groceries more expensive. And that's real, actually. And so the people that are making fun of young people in TikToks, when they cry about their job being difficult, I don't really vibe with that, because the math says it's hard right now. And not just for young people, but I think it's important to talk about them. And the truth of the matter is, though, that in any market we can make money. And so although it's really difficult out there, there's like one silver lining that I've kind of been screaming from the rooftops for the past 3 years. And people, I think, are starting